Hi students, it's Arthur, and we're going to talk now about networking and the elevator pitch in your informational interview. So first thing we'll cover about is the assignments for the class. So in the summer session, the elevator pitch and informational interview are combined into one assignment. In our normal semesters, these two are separated as separate assignments. But in our class, basically the elevator pitch is going to be using the information from the class and the resources that are in the module resources. We want you to create your personalized elevator pitch and then upload your final draft of that to Canvas. For the informational interview, we hope that you would use your elevator pitch in this. However, what we're going to be focusing on here in the informational interview is you want to identify an individual in a company and or role interesting to you. That interview should be from 15 to 30 minutes, and we prefer that you don't invite immediate family to do this. Reason for that, there's a couple of reasons, one of which is that we really want you to expand your professional network. So use this as an opportunity to find somebody that maybe you don't have an immediate connection with. And additionally, we want you to have a little bit of a challenge as well. So talking to a family member, you certainly may stretch yourself a little bit. But basically, we want you to use this as a little bit of an opportunity to spread your wings a little bit. After the interview, we expect you to send a thank you note, although that's not a part of the assignment. And then you'll complete a couple of questions in Canvas to reflect on the informational interview. The informational interview does take a little bit of time to get things scheduled, so I suggest you jump on this as soon as possible. We do give it a decent amount of time in the normal semester between the assignment and the actual due date. For summer, because of the compressed schedule, this actually gets compressed quite a bit. So if you're in the summer session, please take my advice and jump on this as soon as possible. The rubrics are also attached. You can access these via the assignments, of course, as well. The elevator pitch is going to be comprised of a few things here. Basically, we want to make sure that it's concise and professional. It has a clear arc to the pitch and a good call to action, something that you're asking for. At the end of this, some compelling reason for the listener to engage or respond, as is said in the rubric. For the informational interview, the reflection is going to be really important, so I'd like you to answer the reflection questions completely as possible. Essentially, we're looking for solid reflection comments for the questions. Okay, let's talk about networking. I like this definition. This comes from entrepreneur.com, and why I like this is because it kind of goes for a couple of different directions. It works very well for working professionals with a very small edit, but also for entrepreneurs. And I try to give a little bit of information for budding entrepreneurs and how to use LinkedIn as well, because entrepreneurs may use LinkedIn in a slightly different way in terms of trying to attract potential clients instead of potential employers. But networking is going to be just as critical in both areas. So this definition kind of fits, and I like it for that reason. It's the process of developing and activating, the key word here being activating your relationships to increase your business or opportunities in the case of a working professional, enhance your knowledge, expand your sphere of influence, or serve the community. Probably should say and or serve the community. And for college students, networking can help significantly to help you learn about different industries and career options. If you have some uncertainty as to where you might want to go, talking to people in those industries and in those roles might reinforce your decision, or it might scare the crap out of you. You may choose to do something different, which is really valuable information as well. I'd rather learn that I don't want to do something in college than after I've graduated. It also will help you gain insight into the job market, and most importantly, in terms of trying to create opportunities, making connections can definitely lead to job opportunities. And we have case after case after case of students who have done an effective job of networking that led to job opportunities for positions that weren't even posted, what we call the hidden job market. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. From a strategy standpoint, we're going to be doing this to focus on a few things. First of all, we want to identify our targets. So our targets are going to be, in no particular order, alumni, industry professionals, professors, and peers. What we're really looking to do is build our professional network that will help build our knowledge base, build our connections, and create an opportunity for us to learn and develop in the industries and roles that we want to explore. Platforms for networking, obviously LinkedIn is going to be the one we're going to focus on in terms of an application. Handshake can be used for this as well. And a lot of professional associations will have specific organizations that allow for or encourage networking as well. They will have discussion boards, virtual meetings, and things like that, which leads us to the next topic, which overlaps pretty significantly in terms of networking events, virtual and in-person events, typically hosted by organizations or the university. So the Chamber of Commerce has mixers and networking events that they sponsor, industry events related to functions, industry, kind of trade show type things, university clubs and organizations. I mentioned that in the community service, but also in another module as well with respect to getting engaged. A lot of the clubs and organizations have opportunities where they bring in external speakers, which you can network with. They also have events and competitions and things of that sort, which gives you exposure to external businesses as well. But of course, UNCW also hosts career fairs and Business Week, which are great opportunities to learn more from alumni and local businesses who come and talk to students about their careers and lessons learned and things of that sort. So you can learn a lot through basically fairly little engagement time that you need to commit to, because the university does a wonderful job of giving you opportunities. It's not hard work at all if you just reach out and explore what's available to you in your own backyard, so to speak. And another area for networking is informational interviews. And we'll talk much more about that within that specific topic. When we're talking about networking strategy, we want to make sure that you understand the importance of professionalism in all communications and interactions. You want to be looking at building reciprocal relationships. We need to stress the importance of offering value in return, not just taking advice or help from your contacts. I know a lot of students find difficulty in this. It could be that you're not going to be paying for this now. You might pay for this later, but you could still offer value to the people that you're speaking to in terms of additional connections, learning about what's going on in the university that they might be able to use in their own organization in terms of understanding what students are interested in. Also, keeping in touch, of course. We're going to discuss the importance of maintaining connections over time, not just when you need to learn something or you want a favor. You can't activate your network if you don't keep it nurtured and alive. So maintaining those connections are going to be really important, because when you need your network, the last thing you need is to have to spend time reactivating it. So when we talk about job search, I like to use the analogy of the three doors to kind of help students understand how job search and how positions are sourced as the terminology that we use in talent acquisition and recruitment. And you see the term hidden job market here, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But what I wanted you to understand from this particular slide is that most jobs are sourced, or most candidates are selected in this order of preference. Internal promotion or lateral moves, usually these are within the organization, and people are moved into positions from other positions inside the same company. The next level is what we would consider first level networking, And these are going to be direct contacts with the management or staff, including the hiring manager, who happens to know someone. And because of that knowledge, they bring somebody into that position that they have confidence in will support the organization and perform at a high level. The next level is sort of a second level networking area where contacts either through networking or word of mouth actually come to the hiring manager. These can be through like employee referral programs, connections that they use to communicate to the hiring manager that they know somebody in their network, and they make introductions to the hiring manager. So these are things that work sort of at a second level of separation from the hiring manager. And then finally, it's the traditional way, the way that most people think jobs are sourced, which is through job boards, recruiting agencies, and advertisements. The hidden job market is really the first three bullets here. And the statistic you need to know is that 70% of jobs are sourced in these first three categories. The reason it's called a hidden job market is that in many cases, a lot of these jobs may not even be posted, or they're posted only for compliance purposes. And in fact, they don't actually go through a formal sourcing process where they take several hundred resumes, bring it down to a number of 10 to 15 that they will be screening, shortlisting a group of maybe 2 to 4 people, and then interviewing those 2 to 4 people for the final interview. That's what most people think the traditional hiring process looks like. But quite often, that process is shortcutted significantly through these first three bullet points. And as I said, most job searchers don't pay attention to this or don't understand this or don't act upon this. But so most job seekers actually search for jobs in the exact opposite order. They spend the majority of their time working on job boards and doing the spray and pray approach like I've spoken about before. Or they might use recruiting agencies and things of that sort to find their positions. But as I said, the number of jobs available to this group of people that only use this sourcing method is considerably less than the total number of opportunities that are out there. So they essentially are limiting themselves by only tapping into that particular bullet point. So it's important and imperative that students understand this and build their networking skills and their network itself so that they can kind of move up this list and build connections with the people who are actually making decisions. And that's our point. We really want to connect with people who are decision makers. We don't want to wait through the resume process and the interview process to connect with them. We want to be talking about jobs with them before the jobs are even known about or even sourced or posted. So how can we not act on this knowledge? Well, let's talk a little bit about these three doors. The front door is what you might consider, if we kind of think of this as a physical building, the front door is going to be the traditional way people get into the business. They'll either actually go in the front door literally to see if there's job openings or to put in an application or drop off their resume, or they'll use what is now the more traditional ways of applying to companies, which is either through online job boards or the company website. The side door, you can kind of think about this again in using the physical building. This will kind of be the side door where you know somebody inside the business, but it's not the hiring manager. So maybe it's a recruiter that reaches out to you and makes the connection and says, hey, I think you might be a good candidate for this position. Also, job fairs and campus events counts for this. And employee referral programs also work well for this. The back door is what we're really talking about here and what you really want to take advantage of. This is the one-on-one networking. This is developing those relationships with people that are close to the decision maker or who are actually the decision maker. Making that personal connection specifically with the hiring manager, can give you a tremendous opportunity for success. And depending on which door you use, the likelihood of you successfully winning that role increases significantly depending on which door you use. And when we talk about networking and when we talk about this whole process of job search, the one thing that I want you to always remember is it's not about you, it's about them. And this will be the first time maybe you hear me say this, and it definitely, however, will not be the last. A successful job search is all about them, and that them is the decision maker. No matter what you want, if you can't convince the decision maker that you're the best candidate for this position, you won't get the job. So remember that throughout all of this. The resume, your LinkedIn profile, your interviews, and the networking all needs to be focused on who's making the decision and getting to them and building a relationship with them. So how do you go about doing that? Well, we need to start networking. And one of the big elements or key elements of networking is your elevator pitch. So your elevator pitch is a very short story that you're going to be telling someone to introduce you to them, introduce yourself to them, and basically talk through these three things. Who am I and what am I doing now? What distinguishes me from the average candidate, so to speak? What our goals are, and usually we close with a call to action. This is all going to be woven within a compelling story. You're not just going to be blurting out these things as bullet items. And this is designed to open a line of constructive conversation leading to the next logical step. Hopefully, that will be the interview for that position that you really, really want. So the steps for drafting our elevator pitch. This is a good list that we'll talk through here in a moment, but I wanted to highlight there are several videos in the module resources that I really encourage you to watch that talk through this process, but also give some examples as well. And you might find that they're very useful to help increase the number of things and the ideas that you have to create that great elevator pitch. So first of all, you want to develop your intent or goal. And that's going to be what the objective that you have. It could be obviously a career position that you're looking for, but you want to identify who you are and what you're doing now. You also then want to make sure that you identify what makes you different from everyone else. The call to action, it will be quite situational, and depending on kind of what you're looking for next, it could be something as simple as you want to have a cup of coffee to talk to them about their job, how they got their job, what they like about it, what they don't like about it. Or it could be that you're actually asking for a ability to connect with other people in the organization. And maybe you're going to ask who the hiring manager is for a position that you have interest in. But again, it will be situational and unique to the individual and what your purpose is for the conversation. Once you pull all of this together, you're going to want to practice this consistently so that you have it committed to memory. This is not like a script in the fact that you want to memorize it, but you want to make sure you sound natural or authentic and not rehearsed. So I encourage you you certainly will script it, but you want to make sure you use it in your own natural words that you typically use. A lot of times when we write stuff, we write in a slightly different tone, maybe a little bit more formal, and that's not what we want. We want something that's going to be natural for you to talk through so you can speak it in such a way that it comes across as natural conversation. An example of how to approach it will kind of look like this. So first of all, what differentiates you from your peers? Maybe you volunteer on campus or have internship experience. Talk about your achievements, your leadership skills, the strengths that you have. In addition to that, you might want to try to find something that connects you with the person. And you want to use this as well. For instance, do you come from the same hometown? Are they alumni from UNCW? Do you happen to visit the same coffee shop? Those are kind of the things that we're going to look for to try to find a connection to the person that we're speaking with, to be able to build that rapport quickly. Another thing that we're going to be talking about is our career interests. We really want to be specific about our goal because this person is designed, and we hope will be able to help us advance our process. And we also want to talk about how we're already working towards that goal. Things that we're doing, your major, the classes you're taking, the organizations you're involved in, the certifications you might be working on. Then you want to talk about why you're qualified. Okay, so maybe in one of your classes, you've led a team project or placed in a competition, or maybe you taught yourself code last year. Those would be things that will tell you or tell whoever you're speaking with kind of what you're doing and why you're qualified. And then the call to action. What you really want to do is, depending on the set of circumstances, ask for something that's going to help move you forward. These need to be reasonable asks, not a big ask, such as, can you help get me an internship? What that's going to do is that's just going to put people on edge and unlikely to continue the conversation because your ask may be out of their control. What might be more appropriate, if you're interested in an internship, might be a statement that sounds like this. If your company offers internships, would you be able to connect me with the person in charge of that program? See, notice how that is a much softer ask and something that someone on the other side of the table would very likely say, yeah, sure, I can get you that name. That's no problem. You can also ask for an informational interview. Would it be possible for me to put time on your calendar to learn more about the company and what opportunities might exist for internships? Here it's about being truthful and authentic. As soon as you start bragging or boasting or sounding like you read from a script, you're going to turn them off immediately and you're going to be wasting your time and their time. So an example is shown here, and I'm not going to read it for you because it'll be certainly in the materials and in the presentation that's posted. So I just want to make sure I leave it on here screen for just a few seconds just so that you have the ability to take a look at it and read it on your own. And I'll also say that depending on your situation and the relationship level of the person, you can be much more specific in your ask if you know the person or know them a little bit or have an introduction from somebody that you know very well. Your ask might be a little bit bigger, but make sure you understand that you don't want to overwhelm the person that you're talking with or scare them away, so to speak. ChatGPT, can you use it for your elevator pitch? Absolutely, you can, and I would encourage you to use it to see if you can refine it. What I'd like you to do, though, is I'd like you to draft it yourself before you actually use chat, and then put your elevator pitch into chat and ask it what it thinks. So in this example, I actually used ChatGPT 3.5, which is the free version. And the prompt I used, you can see here: act as an expert career coach, write an elevator pitch for a college student working on a degree in business administration with a concentration in supply chain management, seeking an informational interview with an early career professional in logistics. And then a lot of times when I write these prompts, I'll put this kind of a line in here just to clarify that if I have not given it enough information in my prompt, I'm encouraging the AI, the generative AI product, in this case chat, to ask me questions. So I say to complete the task, ask any questions you need before producing the result or output. And in this case, it did ask me questions. In fact, you can see it asked me 4 questions. So you can see at the top of this next slide, I provided the 4 answers to the questions that it has, and it presented me with this output. And you can see, starting with hello, my name is, it's going to give you a, in this case, quite a long elevator pitch. This is not what we're looking for. As we said before, the elevator pitch needs to be kind of 30 seconds in length, and this is definitely a lot more than that. So what I've done is I said rewrite this so that it's concise and less than 100 words. And it comes back with me with a much more reasonable elevator pitch. But you know what? It doesn't sound nice to me because it sounds a little too formal. So I asked it to change the tone to be relaxed but professional. and then it rewrote it. And now it sounds much, much closer to what we're looking for. And what I did was I thought, though, that this one's a little bit maybe on the opposite side of that spectrum. So I requested that it produce one that's kind of in between these two tones. And it produced this one. And I really like this one. I thought this one came out well. So I thought, okay, well, how would I describe this last tone in order to use this in the future? And it describes it as approachable professionalism, which I liked. And I actually use this tone a lot when I'm using chat or other AI products such as Claude to do my writing for me. I ask it to use this tone, and it actually comes with something that's pretty close to the type of words and phrases that I would actually use myself. So that gives you an idea of how to use ChatGPT or some other generative AI solution. These kinds of prompts can be used with Claude, Perplexity, Copilot, and Gemini. And feel free to kind of experiment with this concept and ideas to create your own elevator pitch. And remember, we always got to think about our audience and who this stuff is for, and it's always about them. All right, so let's close out with the informational interview. So the informational interview is a kind of a reverse interview to actually learn something about a company. In most cases, what we're going to be doing is we're going to learn about the company culture or learn about the role of someone that we're speaking with. Ideally, we'd like to talk to people that are doing the jobs that we would like to be doing once we graduate. So our objectives here is to learn about the industry, learn about the roles and responsibilities of the positions, gain insight and advice, and again, build our professional network. All of these interactions are all about building our network. And as I said, think about the level of the ask. We're not going to be asking for a job in this informational interview. We might ask for advice, how they got their job. We might ask for if they have an employee referral program, and maybe they can recommend us for a job. There's all kinds of ways to ask for a job and yet do it in a way that doesn't seem overwhelming to that person. An informational interview is typically quite short, 30 minutes maximum. And I encourage you to try to do it in person if you can. That's going to be the best way to build rapport and build that connection. But if you can't do that, then use video conference. Phone conference, I can tell you right now, will work, but it doesn't do what we need it to do to build connections with the people we're talking with. It's just too disconnected. When you can see their face, it makes a huge difference. So highly recommend either in person or by video. So what are the main steps for an informational interview? Well, first of all, you have to figure out who it is you want to talk to and where they are. So think about your interests in the industries, companies, and potential roles. And then focus on those that are most interesting to you. Basically, we talk about spray and pray in applications. We don't want to spray and pray with networking either. We want this to be very focused. And then before we actually reach out and speak to these people, we want to do our research. We want to know as much about them and their organization and their roles as much as possible. In addition to that, we're going to want to try to find people that are as close connections to us as possible. So if we have people that are in our network that we know, or that people in our family knows, or alumni from our university where we have already that built-in connection, those are going to be kind of things we're looking for to find opportunities to talk with people where we actually have a level of connection that we can use to build that rapport much, much faster. Then we want to make sure we prepare and practice our questions. This has to be very, very clear direction and have the questions ready to go. And so that it's you're not going to make a mistake in terms of trying to figure it out on the fly, which is a death knell for these kinds of conversations. So develop that list of questions and make sure you have a good, concise introduction ready to go. You can use your elevator pitch or a variation of that as your introduction. And then when you reach out to contact the person, make sure, again, as close as you can to a personal connection for the invite as possible. Email and LinkedIn are okay, but nothing like actually talking to the person. Once you conduct the interview, it's about asking thoughtful, open-ended questions. You really do not want to be doing the majority of the talking during this. You want the person to be talking and sharing information with you. It should be kind of like a 70-30 thing, where they're speaking 70% of the time and you're only speaking 30% of the time. And asking open-ended question encourages conversation and them to share information. And those will be the best kinds of questions to ask in the situation. You want to smile, listen, and engage. And you also want to take notes. One thing you could do is you could ask permission to record the session if you're doing it by video. That way you don't have to worry about taking notes and you can thoughtfully listen as you're having that conversation. Once it's completed, obviously thank them for their graciously for their time. And then within the first couple of hours, make sure you take good notes and reflect upon the conversation. And think about the things you wish you had done better. Think about the things you did very well and what you want to reproduce the next time. And capture all of this information. And within 24 hours, make sure you send a well thought out thank you note and use some of the information you've learned to show your active listening skills through that conversation. Then you want to reflect on what you've learned and how that information can influence what you're going to do next. And then hopefully that will encourage you to create your next list for who you want to talk to for your next informational interview or interviews. And then from a networking perspective, make sure that you add this person to your network and you connect with them and you engage with them from time to time to make sure that you keep them active in your network. So I said bring 6 to 10 questions, and here I'm going to give you a list of possible questions that you can use, but I also take a look at the module resources. There's a ton of resources in there, including a couple of documents that talks about what good informational interview questions look like, and a bunch of lists, not a bunch, but a list of questions that you can use that are similar to or in addition to these 10 that are listed here. Where do students and where do people go wrong about informational interviewing? It's usually in one of these categories. Most of the time it's going to be a lack of preparation, where you're asking bad questions or you haven't done your homework and you're just kind of winging it. As all of you know, winging it works very rarely. So being prepared gives you confidence to not be nervous in the conversation. And if you have everything written down, you can do a lot more listening in those situations, which will make the conversation go much, much better. The other way is to failing to establish rapport. And this is not thinking about having this as a conversation, but treating it a little bit like an interrogation. The other person's not going to feel very comfortable in that. So think about how you can connect with them and how you can build that rapport at the beginning of these conversations. Also focusing on yourself, me. Questions coming from that direction is really going to turn off or alienate the person that you're talking to. And even if you have a great conversation, the opportunity to connect with them and use them in your professional network might be harmed if you don't follow up or if you don't show professionalism and respect for that person's time. So that's it. That's informational interviewing, the elevator pitch, and an overview on networking. I hope you were able to learn something with this, and I look forward to talking to you in the next module.